Sofia's life changed dramatically after she gave birth to triplets of black children. Her husband Lucas wanted nothing to do with her and kicked her out of the house. However, 10 years later, something shocking happened. The hospital staff, who were not busy with their duties, gathered at the entrance to observe the commotion. A man named Lucas kept unloading bags from his car and throwing them at the gate, clearly angry. The security staff cautiously approached him and asked him to stop, but he behaved as if they were not visible. They tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't listen. When they finally had to hold him down, he swung wildly and hit one of them before they knocked him to the ground. After Lucas was calmed down, he told a chilling story. He claimed that his wife Sofia had cheated on him and was trying to blame another man's pregnancy on him. They were both white, so it didn't make sense for her to have black triplets. He was shouting that he was done with this marriage. The bags belonged to Sofia, and since he couldn't take them all to the hospital, she would have to pick them up herself. He didn't care that she had just given birth, he only knew that she had caused him deep pain. When the guards released Lucas, he went to Sofia's room. Sofia's arms still hurt after giving birth, and she couldn't move freely. Newborn babies were crying around her, and she looked at them dispassionately. Lucas told her to never return to his house and to return to the black man with whom she was having an affair so that he could raise the triplets. Sofia stared at him in disbelief. She couldn't believe he was kicking her out. She knew that the birth of 3 black babies was a mystery because they were a white couple. Lucas had been in the delivery room earlier, but ran out as soon as the babies were born and saw that they were black. Sofia assumed that they would discuss everything when he returned. She had no idea that he had only come to get her things. She begged him not to leave her like that because she had nowhere to go. As a nursing mother, taking care of children without his support would be emotionally and physically exhausting. But Lucas shouted at her to shut up. "Let her and the children rot in hell. He doesn't care." Lucas gave Sofia one last devilish look before rushing out of the room. She could barely think clearly that day. She called Lucas many times, but he refused to answer the phone. She sent him messages, but they all went unanswered. He seemed to have completely cut her out of his life, and since she was stuck in the hospital, there wasn't much she could do. Feeding the children and taking care of them were the only things that distracted her from her problems. However, when she looked at them and saw their dark skin, she began to wonder what had happened again. Her marriage broke up because of her children's skin color. She knew that if she didn't solve the mystery, things would only get worse. Having no other choice, she turned to her mother Elizabeth for help. As expected, an elderly woman came running to help. Elizabeth couldn't understand how such a joyful moment could turn into something that could destroy a marriage. However, she decided not to ask questions because she knew that Sofia was having a hard time. The first thing she had to do was make sure that all of Sofia's things were taken care of properly. She loaded them into her car and drove them to her house. Later, she returned to the hospital to help Sofia. Having one child was stressful in itself, but having 3 was unbearable. Elizabeth knew Sofia already had her hands full, and with all the problems with Lucas, Sofia wasn't in the mood to handle everything on her own. So she decided to be by her side. She made sure Sofia ate at the right time and breastfed the babies when they were hungry. When Sofia felt tired and went to bed, Elizabeth made sure that the triplets were either asleep or not making any noise. It was still difficult for Sofia to endure those first hellish days. Losing Lucas was hard, and she cried all the time. It was believed that the birth of a child was one of the most joyful events for a couple. She didn't understand why, when it was her turn, it led to the destruction of her marriage. She couldn't think straight. She couldn't even breastfeed the triplets properly because her mental health was in decline. She was so depressed that it started to affect her health. That night she had a fever. Fortunately, the doctor treated her immediately, and the next morning she was in great shape again. Despite what Lucas had done, she still believed she could win his heart. She was sure that as soon as she found out the truth, he would come back to her. So far, he had only acted on emotions. She was sure that he still loved her. Unfortunately, a few days later, she found out the truth about his feelings. When she was changing diapers for one of the triplets, her phone beeped with a message from the bank. The joint account she kept with Lucas was completely closed. When she saw the message, she almost lost her mind. It was her savings. She was the one who deposited most of the money into the account. Lucas rarely contributed, and if he did, it was always sparse. She always believed that she had more rights to manage this money. She never expected him to steal them. It was then that she realized that Lucas wanted to ruin her, and it was becoming unbearable. He kicked her out of the house. He knew she needed the money, but he took it anyway. That meant he didn't care what happened to her. At that moment, she didn't care either. All that mattered was the well-being of her children. She wasn't trying to get Lucas on her side anymore. She called the police and reported the theft. She would also have called the bank to freeze the shared account, but it was already too late because every last penny had been written off. The police launched an investigation, but quickly realized that it would not be easy. Lucas fled the state the same day he stole the money. He disappeared, so it became impossible to find him and return the stolen money. This period was one of the darkest for Sofia. She was always gloomy when she thought about her next move. No matter how long and hard she thought, no solutions seemed to come. It was hard to believe that her life, which had been perfect a week ago, had been turned upside down. She just didn't know how to move on. Fortunately, her mother came to the rescue. Elizabeth picked her up from the hospital. By that time, Sofia had fully recovered and was ready to leave. Elizabeth paid off all outstanding debts, and they all moved into Elizabeth's apartment on the outskirts of the city. Everything that happened was a serious setback for Sofia, but she didn't let it upset her so much. She was determined to provide a good life for her children and mother, so she started looking for a job almost immediately. Fortunately, she soon found her. Although they didn't pay much for it, it was enough to start with. Sofia worked hard, and when the triplets grew up enough to go to school, she started working 2 or 3 shifts so that money wouldn't be a problem. They found a balance in their lives and achieved success. But like all good things, it couldn't last forever. When the triplets were 5 years old, a series of events turned their lives upside down. Strange and creepy notes began to appear in the house, always with the same subtext. In the notes, the mother was accused of treason and promised to cause her suffering. The notes often contained graphic descriptions of how she would pay. It was terrible, because no matter how hard Sofia tried, she couldn't stop them. Every few days, a new strange note appeared. At first they came in the mail, but later she started to find them in the house. Every time she returned from work, she felt that someone was rummaging through her house, and of course, she had a note under her pillow. It scared her a lot, because she knew it was Lucas. He had managed to hide all this time, and now he had come out just to torment her. She did not allow him to have such pleasure, so she reported everything to the police. She told them about the notes, how each one became more threatening, and how she feared for her life. Unfortunately, there wasn't much they could do. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't find Lucas. He was still running in circles around the cops, just like he had 5 years ago. This did not bode well for Sofia. She changed all the locks in her mother's house and set up an alarm system so that any attempt at burglary would immediately call the police and neighbors. She was trying to get back to her old life, despite her worries about Lucas. She was preparing for a promotion that would significantly improve their standard of living. While her mother took care of the children, she focused on preparing for the job promotion interview. When it finally happened, she showed excellent results and got a promotion. It was a great reason to celebrate. Finally, she had wonderful news because she knew that all the financial problems were about to end. That day, Sofia went to pick up the triplets from school, and one of them handed her a note. As soon as she saw the note, her blood froze in her veins. It was the same note Lucas had used to threaten her. She grabbed the note and read it. It was the same thing, but it also said that no matter how hard she tried, he could always scare her. Sofia asked them how they got the note, and they replied that it was given to them by an unknown man. The man told them to pass it on only to her. She listened, and tears burned her eyes. She had never expected Lucas to get so close to the children. It was too much, and she called the police again. This time, they decided to keep an eye on her house to make sure everything was in order. They also conducted a search to make sure there was no trace of Lucas nearby. They couldn't find anything, but they made sure to keep an eye on her house for the next few days to make sure he didn't approach. She was sobbing inconsolably. She screamed at the sky and sighed 1,000 times, wondering how the man who once loved her could hurt her so much. And so, in order to stop further threats to her children, she decided it was time to move to another city. The move wasn't easy for her. She had to quit right after she got the best promotion of her life. It was so unfair, but there was nothing she could do about it. Her children didn't want to leave either. They couldn't bear the thought of leaving their school and friends. They loved their life there. However, Sofia told them that they couldn't stay there until everything was settled. Their lives and well-being were more important to her, and now that she knew Lucas would do anything to get her, she needed to go somewhere where he would never find her. Eventually, they moved to another city. He and Elizabeth managed to start their lives there. She transferred the triplets to a new school and managed to find a decent job that met their needs. Gradually, they made this city their home, and soon Everything about Lucas and his unpleasant messages was in the past. All she wanted to do now was just move on, and that's exactly what they did. When the children turned 10, Sofia decided to throw a party for them. It was a significant period because she also wanted to celebrate. Their birthday was also a testament to the fact that she kept everything intact, despite the fact that many years ago everything went wrong for her. However, during the birthday celebration, the door opened and Lucas came in, looking tired. Sofia was shocked to the core when she looked at him. He looked haggard, as if his sins had finally caught up with him and dealt him a serious blow. When he saw her, he immediately started begging for forgiveness. He told her that he was sorry and was ready to accept the triplets as his children. It was so unexpected that for a moment she thought she was being made fun of. However, the serious expression on Lucas's face told her that he wasn't joking. She asked him what suddenly made him change his mind, and he told her a chilling story. He always knew that the triplets were his children. After his mother found out that the children were black, she took him aside and told him about how she had cheated on his father with a black man. It was an affair that led to the pregnancy. At first, she was afraid that the birth of a child would reveal their romance, but when Lucas was born, he looked white, and no one would have guessed that he was also black. To save face, she decided to take this secret with her to the grave. But when she found out that the same secret was destroying Lucas's marriage, she told him everything. Unfortunately, Lucas didn't care. The fact that the children had inherited their dark skin from him was a great opportunity to break up with Sofia without incurring suspicion. It was for this reason that he was adamant in everything she said and refused to listen. He broke up with Sofia, stole her money, and went to live with his girlfriend. However, it turned out to be a big mistake because the girl was with him only because of the money, and as soon as they ran out, she ruthlessly left him and moved on. It was then that he realized what a treasure Sofia was and what a fool he was to let her go. He sought her out at her mother's house, but was shocked to find that she was doing well. This only made him angry, and he started sending all these unpleasant messages out of jealousy. Later, he managed to track them down in the new city when he went to Elizabeth's old place and asked around. When he finished, he begged her to forgive him. He said that he had behaved stupidly at the time, but now he realized that this was not the case, and he was ready to accept his children. But she refused him. He confessed to her that he had fallen out of love with her and was dating a girl he met at work. She reminded him of how he kicked her out when she was still breastfeeding the triplets. She told him about how he refused to give her a chance when she begged for it, and how he intimidated her with his notes that forced her to move. Then she said that nothing would make her take him back. He didn't deserve it at all. He left her in a depressed state, and she immediately called the police, who managed to find him and arrest him. Now that he was locked up, she could breathe easy and continued to work to ensure a good life for herself and her children. She knew that she would tell them about Lucas soon, but she believed that the time for all this would come. In the meantime, she was ready to enjoy her children as much as she could.